Right. In your ISN, and I'm not going to talk. It's important. Sometimes you can still factor things when you don't do that, but it just makes it more difficult. So might as well get. Um, there's, it kind of takes you through talking about grouping and perfect squares, but over here might be what's the most helpful to some of you. Difference of squares happen. Numbers and variables. What changes is the but the AB thing for some and since this is different, and I'm sorry, since this is the difference of squares and it's subtraction, the signs are the same. It's half size and sideways. You can just tape it in there so that you can see it, when you flip to that page. All right, so let's look at what's on page 16 now. Now, remember, this whole first unit is review. And X and Y intercepts, I'm not teaching you what they are. You don't, you're class, and we need to have. But when we go over the stuff that are easy, don't just tune me out because you're like, I kind of already know this. Focus. Why I'm going back over it. The details on this, I'm telling you about the things that I see people, that even the people that know what they're doing, what they mess up on. So I'm trying to help you do that. Towards the end when we start to stuff, some of you might kind of get a little bored because you're like, I totally know how to do this, and I might need to help some other people a little bit. That's okay. We're not always going to take it quite that slow, so don't let me lose you like on the second day, right? So, again, should totally know what. So obvious here. Intercepts are points where a graph intersects the x or y axis, right? We've known that forever. So an intercept is where the graph intersects the x-intercept x-axis, so it's where y. So an x-intercept occurs where y equals 0, and a y-intercept occurs where x equals 0, okay? And those are the equations of those vertical. So a function can have 0 plus x-intercept, or maybe out, or maybe there's 4. So at most 1. So why can it be more than one y-intercept? Because it wouldn't be a function. If I have 2 y-intercepts, that means I got 2 y values for that one x value, and it's not a function. Specifically talking about now, not relations, mostly on functions. So, all right. So the x and y intercepts. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that y'all can all, identify them just fine. But here's the detail part. It's answer the question. You might be able to point to it, and how you write it makes a difference depending on what is being asked of you. Okay, so since it specifically says intercepts, that means my answers have to be ordered pairs, not sets of numbers or anything else. Okay, so I know x-intercepts are there. 1, and what is it? 4, 0, right? 4, 0. It's not 4, it's 4, 0. Intercept is what? Make sure on these, so you put the zeros in the right place. know what they are, but do we have brain sometimes? Yes, we do. So we just want to try and avoid some of that. All right, number 2, how many x-intercepts are there? There's 4. And so the first one here is negative 1, 0. Then we have one at 1, 0. Then 2, 0. And 3, 0. And list out the actual ordered pairs because that's what's being asked of me. And then that y-intercept will be what? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll go, I think 6. Yeah. I know the square is kind of small. All right, let's look at number 4. What's the intercepts? On number 4. Look at number 4. I skipped it. Number 4. Sorry. Okay. Let's get it. Because that's not the 5, 0, 0, 5. Okay, good. 0, 5. Come to number 6. The x-intercept. There's none because there's a what here? Asymptote. So there's none there. What about the y-intercept? There's none because there's an asymptote there as well. Okay. All right. So intercept, ordered pairs, right? So now let's talk zeros. Zeros are the x values where the function intersects the x-axis. Okay. The x values where the function about, right? But the difference here is where x values, not the ordered pairs, it's just the x values themselves. So if I ask you for the zeros or the roots or the solutions, the intercept is an actual location and is a point. Does that make sense to you? So I'll just make it really easy. And oh, yes. So we're going to set f of x equal to 0 and solve for what? X. So to get the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0 and solve for y, but it's not worded that way. So how do you think I would word that same idea to this? Right? So if I set x equal to 0, is this what happens? Right? So what am I finding at 0? Exactly. Does that make sense? So it's a different way to say it. It is the same thing, but again, we're finding f of 0. You let f of x equal, and then you find f of 0. Right? Just a different way to say it. It's the same as setting x equal to 0 and solving for y or whatever. But okay, we good? Okay. All right, flip it over. Y algebraically. So we're going to start with the zeros. So we set f of x equal to 0. So we get 0 equals negative absolute value of x minus 5 plus 3. Okay. Right here is negative, so I'd rather make it positive. I'm going to move it over. Value of x minus equals 3. 8. Set x minus to 3 and good. X because it's the absolute value, so there's 2 there. equals 2, right? So when I answer zeros, and I get 2, 8. The y-intercept, that means, so that equals negative absolute value of x, oops, x is 0. 0 minus 5 plus 3. So 0 minus 5 is negative 5. The negative sign here. Negative 5 plus 3, which is negative 2. So what do I write here? 0, it says intercept, right? So that's in order. Everybody okay with that? Okay, any questions? All right. So let's. It says f of x. So I'm going to start with the zeros. So I'm going to set f of x equal to 0. So I get 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. So I need to solve for x. What am I going to have to do? Yes. Well, I've got to find. I'm going to have to factor. So yes. So here's where some of you might be like, I don't need to see all this, but I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to factor this 3 different ways, and here's why. There's more than 3 ways to factor, but there's one way that if you had Miss McWhorter, she showed you. It's not even her favorite way, but she was trying to be consistent with somebody else. Then I'm going to show you a way that is similar to that, because some of you learned that. And then I'm going to do it by grouping. And if you did it differently, I don't care how you do it. You don't have to change. You don't have to do it my way. You just have to be able to do it right. But I want to kind of do it, and I just kind of want to get a feel for who's the most comfortable with what. If you are not really sure what you like best, then I'll tell you kind of what I would do every time. But again, it's your personal preference. And I think if I just do it that way, if I only ever do it one way, sometimes people get confused because they're trying to do it that way, but they mean to do something else. You with me on that? So I'm just going to do this one time. I'm not going to do this every time I ever factor. So I'm going to come over here. And so yes, I do have a magic number. Let's do that. So 2 times negative 4. And I have to do this because this isn't a 1 here. I get negative 8, right? So I need 2 numbers to multiply to give me a negative 8 that would combine to give me negative 7. And what are those numbers going to be? Negative 8 and 1. Okay, so those are my magic numbers. So here's option number 1. This is the way. I know if you had Miss McWhorter, she did this way, and she also did. I'm not going to. Show me every time. But you're really kind of doing the same thing. So, and make this 2x and 2x and minus 8 and plus 1. Now, at this point, what you do is this leading function and you divide through by 2. Okay, and if you can, this negative 8 is divisible by 2, so this actually becomes x minus 4. You divide or reduce, so you're left with 2x, and that's your answer. Don't latch on to it. I'm trying to read. So here's a way that's very similar to that, but it's a little less dangerous. This right here, I don't really like. So way number 2, I'm at negative 8 and 1 for all of these. Here, I don't really care about that 2. By plus 1. Now, we coefficient 2 and actually put it here. We out, but this is negative 4, so this just becomes x minus 4. This doesn't. After you reduce, if you can't reduce anymore, whatever's left there comes out in the front, and you get 2x plus 1. Get this. we're going to have to take our try to break it into 4 terms. Option number 3 squared. And I'm going to do minus 8x plus 1x and then minus 4. Should add what together to come out. Four. Okay. So you're either, I want you to kind of pick a team, right? I want you like, that's your thing, or you like some version of 1 and 2, those kind of go together, or you like something else. So just commit to one because I'm just curious. So how many of you are team 1 or 2? Okay, and how many of you are something else? Okay, do you just kind of look at it? All right. I don't care how you do it, as long as you can do it correctly. You with me on that? So we're good. All right, and I'm not going to ever go through all that again. However we factor it, we get x minus 4 times 2x minus, right? Then what do I do with equal to 0? So x minus 4 equals 0, and 2x plus 1 equals 0. So x equals 4, and x equals negative 1/2. We agree with that? Then here we've got negative 1/2 and 4. My y-intercept, f of 0 is going to be equal to times 0 squared minus 7 times 0 minus 4. So what is f of 0? So that means I get 0. What questions do you have? All right, we're going to do number 9 together, then I'm going to let you do some on your own. Never mind. So we're going to 0 equals x squared plus 4. Now this is x to the 4th. Should I freak out? Oh, should never freak out. I can factor it that way, right? It's going to be 0 equals, and I have 2 binomials. I get an x squared here and an x squared here. So I need 2 numbers to multiply to give me 4. Now remember, since this is positive, these signs are the same. So it's either plus, plus, or minus, minus. Since this is negative, these both have to be negative. And what? Good. Negative 4 and negative 1. Now, I factor what? Squares. Now, last period, most everybody. Okay, so let's be clear on something. We do have perfect squares, but this is not a perfect square trinomial. That's something. This is different. 0 equals x plus 2, x minus 2, and then this becomes plus 1, x minus 1. Okay. Then I set them all equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. 0. So x equals negative 2. X equals 2. X equals negative 1. X equals 1. So I have 4 zeros. I don't have to step 4. This plus or minus 2. Now, one of the things I'm going to look at when I'm coming around is I'm checking your work, not just your answer. And it's funny because This is something that Mr. Ackerman made a comment about at lunch today, and it wasn't even, I didn't even say anything first. He said something about the equal sign and drawing them off. A lot of people so far today, you're losing these equal signs. Not even going to look at your, they just picky. It's not me and my pet peeve. It's about me making sure that you're, most of you have some beautiful, it's not a problem, but there are some people that consistently, you got to train yourself not to do that. So that's y-intercept. Y-intercept is just 4. So we get 0, 4. Everybody good so far? All right, let's start number 10 with, and I want to come around and check some things. So I'd have 0 equals x cubed minus 6x squared minus 7x. The very first thing, GCF, absolutely. 0 is equal to x times x squared minus 6x minus 7. All right, so you finish that one up. Let's go on to the next one, so forth and so on.